Welcome to Computing at Home with Digital Schoolhouse. My name is Estelle, otherwise known as ComSci Geek. I'm a computing teacher and I also develop resources for the programme. We specialise in delivering computing workshops that are accessible, educational and fun. You are watching part 1 of our Crazy Mazes workshop. This part of the workshop is unplugged, meaning you don't need any tech to take part, just a device to watch the video. You can watch any of our previously streamed workshops on our YouTube channel. Just search YouTube for Digital Schoolhouse. To all learners watching, remember you can pause the video at any time to take notes, collect your thoughts, or take part in the workshop alongside me. Just remember, if you do pause the video, you'll need to skip it back to carry on from where you left off. The Digital Schoolhouse team are ready and waiting in the chat should you have any questions throughout, and I'll also be taking 5 minutes to answer your questions at the end of the workshop. Parents and guardians, you might want to watch the next bit as it explains how to access our resources, but after that feel free to join in or sit nearby to supervise if you want to. Let's get started. For today's workshop you are only going to need paper and a pen or pencil. That's all you're going to need, so make sure you've got those ready and waiting. If any of you want to have a closer look at the resources that we're using today, I'm going to quickly show you where to find them on the website as usual, just in case you are interested in finding a little bit more about the programme and perhaps running this workshop in your school if you're a teacher. So let me quickly show that to you now. So as usual, head on over to our website. And you'll need to go to the Digital Schoolhouse website, which is digitalschoolhouse.org.uk. That's digitalschoolhouse.org.uk. Go to resources, click on live workshops. You'll find the workshop we're doing today, Crazy Mazes, is at the top. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will need to scroll further down the page as they move as we have more live workshops. So click on where it says Crazy Mazes. And you'll find there is all the resources for Crazy Mazes if you wanted to run this in your own school. So there you go, that's where you'll find the resources for today. But as I said, all you're actually going to need is pen or pencil and some paper. And you'll be able to join in with us today. So let's get started. Okay, so welcome to Crazy Mazes Part 1. In this workshop, you're going to learn about the importance of correct instructions, what an algorithm is, how to represent an algorithm in a flowchart, how to evaluate the effectiveness of an algorithm, how to use selection and loops within your algorithm, and also how to dry run or test your algorithm to see if it works and achieves desired results. So don't forget, as I've said previously, if any of those words are new to you, don't worry, I'm going to explain them as we go along. So first thing I'd like to know, and perhaps you might be able to pop this into the chat window in Twitch, what do you already know about computers? So have a little think about it. What do you already know about computers? If you have an answer, pop it into the chat window on Twitch, or maybe you just want to tell the person that's near you what you already know about computers. So when I normally run this workshop in schools, some of the answers that I might get are that they are electronic devices. I might get told that you can play games on them. I might get told that you can make presentations on them. Sometimes I also get told that they use binary to work. And those tend to be the kind of things that I hear about. I sometimes hear about using the internet as well. And I might also be told a little bit about internet safety and about how you need to be a little bit wary when you're using the internet because people might not be what they seem. And to always tell an adult if you feel worried about something that you experience when you're on the internet. So those are some of the things that we sometimes see about knowing about computers. I'll just see if anyone's popped anything else in there. No one else has told me anything, but do pop them in there if you do want to tell me about things that you already know about using a computer. Okay, so what is a computer? The actual definition of a computer is a machine that carries out instructions, which we call programs, and those are written by a human. So that might maybe have just changed your mind about what a computer is. And actually a computer can be lots of different things. It isn't necessarily just a PC or a laptop. It could be your games console. It could even be your phone. That's an example of a computer. Anything that carries out instructions and it's a machine and those instructions are written by a human is classed as a computer. Okay. Next thing I'd like to know, in fact, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to watch a little video. While we're watching the video, I want you to listen out for these snippets. I want you to listen out for the word programming, the words stupidest thing in the entire universe, Facebook, million people, green circle and red square, and the word awesome. So those are the words that I would like you to listen out for really carefully in the video. So listen carefully for those, and then you'll be able to tell me about those hopefully a little bit later on. So let's hop over onto the video and have a look at that now.
I was 13 when I first got access to a computer.
My parents bought me a Macintosh in 1984 when I was 8 years old.
I was in 6th grade.
I learned to code in college.
Freshman year, first semester, intro to computer science.
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I think it was pretty humble beginnings. I think the first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I first learned how to make a green circle and a red square appear on the screen.
The first time I actually had something come up and say, hello world, and I made a computer do that. It was just astonishing.
Learning how to program didn't start off as wanting to learn all of computer science or trying to master this discipline or anything like that. It just started off because I wanted to do this one simple thing. I wanted to make something that was fun for myself and my sisters. And I wrote this little program and then basically just add a little bit to it. And then when I needed to learn something new, I looked it up either in a book or on the internet and then added a little bit to it.
It's really not unlike kind of playing an instrument or something, or playing a sport. It starts out being very intimidating, but you kind of get the hang of it over time.
Coding is something that can be learned, and I know it can be intimidating. A lot of things are intimidating, but what isn't?
A lot of the coding that people do is actually fairly simple. It's more about the process of breaking down problems than, sort of coming up with complicated algorithms as people traditionally think about it.
You don't have to be a genius to know how to code. You need to be determined.
Addition, subtraction, that's about it.
You should probably know your multiplication tables.
You don't have to be a genius to code. Do you have to be a genius to read?
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball or build a house, all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
What it is, computers are everywhere. You want to work in agriculture? Do you want to work in entertainment? Do you want to work in manufacturing? It's just all over.
Here we are, 2013. We all depend on technology to communicate, to bank, information, and none of us know how to read and write code.
When I was in school, I was in this after-school group called the Whiz Kids, and when people found out, they laughed at me and, all these things. And I'm like, man, I don't care. I think it's cool, and, I'm learning a lot, and some of my friends have jobs.
Our policy is literally to hire as many talented engineers as we can find. The whole limit in the system is just that there just aren't enough people who are trained and have these skills today.
To get the very best people, we try to make the office as awesome as possible.
We have a fantastic chef,
Free food,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
free laundry,
snacks, even places to play and video games and scooters. There's all these kind of interesting things around the office and places where people can play or relax or go to think or play music or be creative.
Whether you're trying to make a lot of money or whether you just want to change the world, computer programming is an incredibly empowering skill to learn.
I think if someone had told me that software is really about humanity, that it's really about helping people by using computer technology, it would have changed my outlook a lot earlier.
To be able to actually come up with an idea and then see it in your hands and then be able to press a button and have it be in millions of people's hands. I mean, I think we're the first generation in the world that's really ever had that kind of experience.
Just to think that, I mean, you can start something in your college dorm room, and you can have a set of people who haven't built a big company before come together and build something that 1 billion people use as part of their daily lives is just crazy to think about, right? It's humbling and it's amazing.
The programmers of tomorrow are the wizards of the future. You know, you're going to look like you have magic powers compared to everybody else.
I think it's amazing. I think it's the closest thing we have to a superpower.
Great coders are today's rock stars. That's it.
Okay, so did you spot the snippets in the video? So the first one we had was the word programming, and this actually featured throughout the video. There was lots of times that they talked about the word programming, and we'll come back to that in a little bit, in a bit more detail. The next word that we had was the stupidest thing in the entire universe. Now, I couldn't spot that one, so I'm going to let you guys tell me out there where that one was in the video, because I didn't quite catch that one myself, so I'm hoping that some of you might have done. The next one is Facebook. You might have noticed that Mark was the guy who actually started Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, and he was speaking quite a lot in the video about how he started programming. Million people, that was the number of jobs that are going to be open to people who can program, and so that's something that's maybe something you want to think about, that actually this is a really good profession to get into, because there is lots of job opportunities for people who can program at the moment. Also, green circle and red square. You might have noticed that Eleanor talked about this as being one of the first things that she learnt to do for actually programming, green circle and red square. So that's something that a lot of people might tell you about the kind of things they started doing. And you might have noticed also Bill Gates, who is the guy who started Microsoft, he talked about how he first learnt to program a game of tic-tac-toe. And you are going to be learning how to program a game in our part 2 of this workshop. So that might be something that helps you launch yourself into the beginnings of your career in programming. Awesome. The word awesome was about explaining about what the office was like, and I don't know if you agree that the office looked absolutely amazing, with lots of really cool things going on, all sorts of really fun things like scooters, spaces where you could go and practice as a band, there was really cool food and all sorts of things going on. And let me tell you that actually offices are actually like that. If you go and have a look at some of the really big tech companies, they have offices that are just like that. So it's a really interesting industry to work in. So having watched that, we talked about the word programming quite a lot in that video. So do you know what a computer programmer is? Again, if you want to, pop it into the window on the Twitch stream. Maybe you can tell me what a computer programmer is, but I'm going to tell you the answer now so you can check it with mine. So a computer programmer is a person that makes or fixes computer programs. So you are all going to be becoming computer programmers in part 2 of this workshop, because you're going to be learning how to create a computer program to play a maze game. So that might be, as I said, the first thing that you've ever done in doing some programming, and that's absolutely fantastic. So we're going to do a little activity now together. Now, what you're going to need is your pen and paper, or your pencil and paper, depending on what you prefer to work with. And you are going to follow my instructions, and you're going to see what you end up with. Okay, I'm not going to tell you any more detail. I'm just going to read the instructions to you. Make sure you've got your pen and paper at the ready, because you're going to need it as I go through these instructions. And we'll go back to how this links to what we've just been talking about in a moment. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do on your pen, on your piece of paper, is you're going to draw a vertical line. I will be kind, and I'll just quickly remind you the difference between vertical and horizontal, but that's the only little clue I'm going to give you. So vertical is up and down, okay, and horizontal is across. So that's the only thing I'm just going to quickly remind you, because I tend to do that. When I do this in schools, I often have to just remind the difference between vertical and horizontal. So just that little sneaky peek, but from now, it's over to you completely. So draw a vertical line, draw a horizontal line across it, draw a diagonal line from the top of the vertical to the tip of the horizontal. Make sure I give you a bit of time to do that. So I'll just say that again. Draw a diagonal line from the top of the vertical to the tip of the horizontal line. Repeat instruction 3 for all remaining corners. Repeat instruction 3 for all remaining corners. And then draw a wavy line from the bottom tip. Okay, hopefully you have filled that in and you've done it. If you need to pause it because you've not quite finished drawing from my instructions, then do feel free to pause if you need to. I'll quickly go through the instructions one last time, just in case. So first instruction, draw a vertical line, then draw a horizontal line across it, then draw a diagonal line from the top of the vertical to the tip of the horizontal line, then draw a wavy line from the bottom tip, and that is our instructions completed. Okay, so as I said, I'm about to go over what you should have ended up with. If you do need a bit more time, feel free to pause the stream now. I'll pop the pause up just so you can pause it here. Gives you something to jump back to if you need to. But if you're ready, I'm moving on to what the solution is now. Okay, so the first instruction, draw a vertical line. You should have drawn a line like this. There we go, draw a vertical line. Then you should have drawn a horizontal line across it, like this. Then you should have drawn a diagonal line from the top of the vertical to the tip of the horizontal line. Let's see what that one looks like. There we go. Then step 4, repeat instruction 3 for all remaining corners. So here we go. There we go, there, and there, and there. And last but not least, draw a wavy line from the bottom tip. And can you tell what it is? Yeah, it's a kite. So there we go, there is our drawing of a kite. Okay, now don't worry if you ended up with something that didn't look quite right. Okay, because, and we'll explain a little, and we'll look in this in a bit more detail now, because you can't really have guessed the answer. And also, you probably will have found, and in fact, if I could like zoom into your room right now and have a look at what you've drawn, your response is going to be different to mine, and it probably be different to everybody's that is watching at home at the moment. Now, the reason that is because you might have taken slightly different understanding of the instructions. So you might have done the vertical line, and then the horizontal line across it, it didn't say where to draw it across it, so you might have drawn it too high. It also didn't say how big to draw the line, so you might have done it like this and filled up the whole page, because it didn't give you any specifications of how big to make that line. And then the bit about going from the tips of the corners, this is another one where sometimes people, it doesn't say it doesn't necessarily have to be straight, so you might have ended up with something that looked like this. You might have ended up with something where it doesn't actually go right to the tip for some reason. And then the wavy line, you might have done a wavy line that goes like that, for example. Okay, now everyone's response could well be different because the instructions were quite ambiguous. They weren't clear enough and they weren't precise enough. Okay, so our instructions could be better if they were clearer and if they were more precise. But what do we mean by that? So things like, for example, you could make them clearer by actually specifying how long to draw the line and maybe where to start drawing the line. If you said to start it in a particular point on the page, that would make it a lot easier to understand how it's meant to be drawn. And the other part about making it more precise, if you actually gave specifications of what length of line to draw, that would make it a lot more precise. That would also mean you don't end up with a huge cross like this, which fills up the whole page, and then you've got no space to actually draw the kite on. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you could do to make the instructions clearer. Think about where you're actually going to place the drawing on the paper, so actually give instructions of where to start it from. Say how long the lines need to be, and also give detail about where to start the line and also where to cross the line through. So for example, where we had to put the horizontal line so it went through the vertical line, if you made sure that you actually said that you need to go through the middle point of the vertical line, then it would have been a lot more precise. Okay, so thinking about how you can make your instructions more clear and more precise. But what would happen if we always followed instructions exactly as they were said? What would happen if you pointed to a closed door and said, go through that door? So I want you to imagine that you're a robot. You are a robot who follows instructions exactly as they're told to you, and you are going to go through a closed door. So you walk up to the door, but your instructions tell you to just keep going because that's all you've been told to do, and you just go smack into the door, okay? Because you follow the instructions exactly as they were told to you, and you're told to go through a closed door. Now, as a human, you probably will have thought about that you needed to open the door and things like that. But if you're not programmed to do that, if you've not been given those specific instructions, then you wouldn't know to do that, and you would just literally bang straight into the door. So computers work by following lists of instructions, and they do exactly what the instructions say, even if they don't make sense. And that's the really important part. Computers can't make decisions for themselves. They only do what they're programmed to do. So if the instruction that you've given your computer doesn't actually really make sense, the computer, as long as it can actually do that instruction, will still do it anyway, because that is what it's been told to do. So think about the scenario where you're typing away and you've written this really lovely long story on your computer and you've typed it all out. Maybe you're using Word or PowerPoint or presentation software, and you've done this beautiful piece of work, and then you accidentally press the red cross in the corner and you close your work and you've lost it. Okay, that's a really good example of where it really didn't make sense what you just told your computer to do. You told it to close that piece of work without saving, that you spent ages working on, and the computer has carried out the instruction even though it didn't make any sense. Okay, computers can only do exactly what they're told to do, even if it doesn't make any sense. So when you're telling the computer what to do, you can also choose how it's going to do it. And that how it's going to do it is an example of something called an algorithm. So an algorithm is a set of instructions to be followed in sequence. And if you're not sure what that word sequence means, it just means that the instructions are carried out in the order that they're written. And it's carried out in sequence to achieve a result such as drawing a square. So I'll just read you that definition again. An algorithm is a set of instructions to be followed in sequence to achieve a result such as drawing a square. Okay, so let's have a closer look at what algorithms can do for us when we're working with computers. So one way that we can start to think about algorithms by using something called a flowchart. Now flowcharts are really, really handy, and they are actually used to help programmers to plan what their program is going to look like, and also dry run it, so just to make sure that it works as they intend it to. So here we have a lovely flowchart for drawing a square. So I've got my plain paper here ready. I'm actually going to put it up this way, so I've got it in portrait, so I can actually write out the whole of the flowchart algorithm. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to work out what order these instructions need to go in to be able to draw a square. So as you can see, there are enough instructions to for all the instructions to be used, so every single one of those boxes should be filled in. And these boxes are special, so the actual shapes that they are in the algorithm are important. So this shape means that it's a process. It means that the computer is doing something. And this one, which is like a little bit like a lozenge or an oval, that is used for start and stop. Okay, so the actual shape that is being used in the flowchart is important. And we'll talk about some of the other shapes as we go on. But as I said, there is enough of these instructions down the side here to fit them into all of the shapes in the flowchart. And you should be able to create a flowchart that would allow a computer to draw a square. Okay, so I'm going to hop onto my bit of paper and I'm going to start to draw out my flowchart, and then I'll show you my flowchart and then we can compare to see if we ended up with the same answer. So I'm going to quickly do this on my piece of paper now. Feel free to pause the stream if you need to, but I think you should be able to do this with me. I'm actually going to count the boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, so 6 rectangles. I'm going to add them to my piece of paper. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I've got the last symbol that goes on the end. There we go. And now I'm going to start to assign each of the instructions into my flowchart. So if you just wanted to see what I've just done, I've literally just designed a flowchart on my plain piece of paper so that I can fill it in. Okay, so it's just like this with the start at the top, right down to the, oh, I've given you a little sneaky peek and a little hint at what might go at the end there, haven't I? That's absolutely fine though. So that's what you need to have on your paper. And now you're going to start to fill in all of those instructions from the side of the flowchart that I'm just showing you now. Okay, so that's what we're going to pop in now. So let me just get those in. I'm not going to tell you the answer this time. I'll show you the answer in a moment, so you can see what it should look like. Okay, so I'm going to pop my first one in. And then my second one. Okay. Right, so that's what I've ended up with. Let's see if you ended up with the same as me. So this is what I've ended up with. I have position pen on paper, then I've got draw a line, then turn 90 degrees, then draw a line, then turn 90 degrees, then draw a line, and then I've got the stop or end. Okay, so let's do a quick dry run of this and see what it actually looks like. So, position pen on paper, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, draw a line. Ah, I haven't actually managed to draw a whole square. That means that my instructions aren't quite complete. So can you work out what's missing? What needs to go in this space here? What needs to go there? Okay, I'm going to pop it back onto the flowchart algorithm instructions and see if you can work out what the 2 missing instructions are. So I'm going to pop them onto my, in fact, I'm going to just do that because I've run out of space slightly, and see if you agree with me. So I'm just adding to my flowchart now, see if you end up with the same instructions as me. Okay, so I have added to my flowchart. Let's see if you have the same as I do. So I've got rid of this stop at the end there. I've just scrubbed it out because I didn't have, don't need it there. If I'd done this in pencil, I would have rubbed it out. And then that instruction goes to the next one, which would be to turn 90 degrees again, and then draw another line and then end. So it would do from this point here, it would turn 90 degrees again, and draw a final line, and we have our completed square. So there is our completed flowchart algorithm for drawing a square. Very well done. Okay, so there you go, there is another example there. Now this just does the job, but it's probably a little bit too long. Have you got any ideas about what we could do to make it more efficient? So have a close look at it. So we can read the instructions through again just to remind ourselves. We've got start, position pen on paper, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, draw a line, and then end. Okay, so let's think, how could we make this algorithm more efficient? Now, if you're not quite sure what we mean by efficient, so efficiency in programming means generally making the instructions shorter. What could you do to make the instructions shorter? Okay, now I'm going to give you a chance to do this on your paper yourself. See if you've got any ideas about what you could do to make it shorter. Sorry, I'm just knocking my stool. What could you do to the instructions to make them shorter? And I'm going to pop an idea onto my notepad, and then we can see and compare to see if we've ended up with the same idea. Okay, so I'm going to start to put my idea onto my notepad. That's what I'm doing over here. So you can do this yourself. So think about, how could we make this algorithm shorter? But it still needs to do the same thing, remember? It's just that the number of instructions needs to be shorter. Okay. So I'm just filling in what I think we could do to make it shorter. Okay, so I've written in what I think we could do to make this work. Let's see if you agree with me. So this is what I've ended up with. I've got start, position the pen on the paper, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, and then I've got this times 3. So I'm going to repeat it a second time. I draw a line, I turn 90 degrees, then I'm going to do it a third time. Draw a line, turn 90 degrees. Now, I think I've actually ended up with the same algorithm as I started with, where I've got a square that looks like that. So I've got a little error in my code. Can you see what my error in my code is and what I could potentially do to make it work? Have a little look, see if you can see my error, see if you can solve it. If you haven't done the flowchart yourself, maybe you want to have a go at writing it write it out now, and maybe have a go at correcting my error. Can you spot what the error is that I've written in my flowchart and what I need to do to make it correct? You might find that what we did in the full algorithm, when we had the full one, this one, what I did here to make it work, do you remember? We went on to here and we added some more instructions. So what do I need to do to make this algorithm work so we actually draw a square and not a square that's got missing side? Okay, so pause and stream for a moment. If you do need to pause it, have a really good look, have a think about what you need to do to make that into a square, and then I'll show you the answer in just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to show you the answer now. So this is what the answer is, and we should be repeating 4 times, not 3 times, okay? So hopefully you've ended up with an algorithm that's correct, and maybe you had it correct to start with, not like me with a mistake in it. So we start, we position the pen on the paper, we draw a line, we turn 90 degrees, we do that again, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, that's now repeated twice. We do it a third time, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, and then we do it the 4th time, draw a line, turn 90 degrees, and then we end. And we should end up with a square that is correctly drawn from following our flowchart algorithm. Very well done. Okay, so that is looking at example of using a loop in a flowchart. So this little bit of code that's repeating is called a loop, or in programming, we sometimes call this iteration. That means the same thing. It means a bit of code that's repeated. So we've repeated this 4 times in order to get our square to be drawn on the paper. Okay. Right, with this last little bit is a little bit of an optional extra for you. So this is completely up to you whether you want to do this or not. And it's if you have the ability to do it because you've got somebody at home that you can work with. So this is a chance for you to do something similar to the kite activity that we did at the beginning of this workshop, but to work with somebody at home. So this is your opportunity to choose an image that you can see but your partner can't. You are going to then read instructions to help them draw the image. They need to follow the instructions exactly. On the first round, they can ask questions. And then we're going to do it again with a second image, but on that round, they are not allowed to ask any questions. Okay? Now, if you aren't able to do this with a partner, because there's not someone that you can work with at home at the moment, I'm going to do this activity myself with you on screen. So in a minute, I will tell you to turn away from the screen because I'm going to show the images for those of you that want to do this yourself with a partner. Okay, but if you haven't got somebody at home to work with and you still want to take part, that's fine. Just be aware that you will need to turn away from the screen because I'm going to put the image up for those who do want to do it that way. Okay, so what I normally do, if you're actually doing this at home with a partner, what I normally do if I do this in the classroom is I get them to sit back to back. So the person that is going to be doing the drawing, they will sit back to back with their pen and their paper with the person that is going to give the instructions. The person that's given the instructions needs to be able to see the picture that is going to be on the screen in a minute because you need to describe that thing, okay? Now this first round, the person that is giving the instructions can be asked questions. So you can ask them, what do you mean by that? How long does that need to be? Where do you want that drawn on the paper? All that kind of thing. But on the second round, then you're not allowed to ask any questions at all. Okay, you just literally have to follow the instructions as they tell them. If you haven't got someone at home to do this with at the moment, it might be something that you want to try out a bit later. That's absolutely fine as well. Okay, so get yourself in position, ready. If you're doing this and you're following my instructions, because there's not someone to pair up with at the moment, that's fine because I'm going to count down, and when I get to 0, that's where the instructions are the picture's going to be on the board. So make sure you're looking away by that point if you're going to be following along with me. Okay, everybody ready? 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so first instruction for those of you who are following with me. I'd like you to position your pen at the top of your piece of paper, about 1 centimetre down from the top and in from the side on the left-hand side. And I'd like you to draw a straight line, keeping 1 centimetre away from the top, all the way over to the right-hand side, and that should be completely level. And that when you get to the other end of the paper, it should be about 1 centimetre in from the top and the side again. Then I'd like you to turn 90 degrees, so you're then going to go down the page, still keeping 1 centimetre away from the side of the sheet. And you're going to go right down to the bottom of the paper, and you're going to stop again 1 centimetre from the bottom. Then you're going to lift your pen off the paper, and you're going to go over to the left-hand side, where you first started. You're going to place your pen in the same position as you started at, and then you're going to go down the paper, again keeping 1 centimetre away from the side of the page, and you're going to stop 1 centimetre from the bottom. Okay, then you're going to turn 90 degrees so that you are then able to go along the bottom of the paper, and you're going to go along the bottom of the paper again, keeping about 1 centimetre away from the bottom. And you're going to stop about 5 centimetres away from the side of the paper. Then you are going to turn 90 degrees to go up the page. You're going to keep that line so it is, what's the word? It is level with the line that you drew on the outside part of the paper. You're going to draw up the paper, and you're going to stop about 5 centimetres away from the line that you drew at the top. Then you're going to turn 90 degrees. You're going to draw another line that's level with the line that's at the top, and you're going to keep drawing it until you're about 5 centimetres away from the line on the outside of the paper. Then you're going to turn 90 degrees again. Then you're going to draw a line again. This is going to be level with the lines that you've got on the outside pieces, side of the paper, outside bits. This line is going to be about 4 centimetres long. Then you're going to turn 90 degrees and you're going to draw another line, and you're going to stop about 5 centimetres away from the next line that you've drawn. Then you're going to turn 180 degrees, or it could be 90 degrees but turn to the right instead of the left. And you're going to draw another line. This time it's going to be about 10 centimetres long. Then you're going to draw another line, you're going to turn 90 degrees to the right, and you're going to draw a line that is about 15 centimetres long, and it should end level with the lines that you've drawn above. Then you're going to turn 90 degrees to the right, draw a line that is about 7 centimetres long. Then you're going to turn 90 degrees to the right again, draw a line that is about 10 centimetres long. Then turn 90 degrees to the right and draw one last line, which is about 4 centimetres long. And that should be it. You have finished drawing my drawing. So have a look at the screen now, see if you ended up with something that looked like mine. Maybe you didn't, maybe my instructions weren't very good, but hopefully you did. I'd like to see what you ended up with. So if you do want to tweet us with what you ended up with from my instructions, please do. I'd love to see how well my instructions were at drawing this shape. Okay, if you're ready, we're going to do one more drawing like this. So if you were working in pairs and you're sitting back to back and you want to swap over, this is your opportunity to do a swap now. Let the person who was drawing have a go at giving the instructions. And as I said earlier, this time, instead of being able to ask questions, this time you're going to have it so that the person that is drawing isn't allowed to ask any questions at all. So this is if you want to do it in a partner. With a partner. So we're going to move on and do the last one. So as before, I'm going to count down, and when I get to 0, I'll put the picture on the screen so that those of you who are working in pairs aren't looking. So no cheating at home out there. Ready? 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so if you're following with me, this is your chance. First thing I'd like to do, I'd like you to draw a circle and colour it in black, and the circle can be about roughly in the middle of your page but about 1 centimetre from the top of the page. So it's going to be in the middle on the vertical line, but it's going to be so middle near the top, and then colour it in. Then you're going to draw from the bottom of your circle, but coming out of the middle of the bottom, you're going to draw a line straight down that vertical line. If you imagine there's a vertical line drawn down in the middle of your piece of paper, and you need to draw it so it is roughly 8 centimetres long. And then you're going to draw a vertical line that goes through the middle of I'll say that again. You're going to draw a horizontal line that's going to go through the middle of the vertical line that you have just drawn. So you're going to form like a plus symbol, okay? So add that on, so it should be 8 centimetres long, and it should go right through the middle of the vertical line that you drew that came out of the bottom of the black circle. Then at the bottom of the vertical line, that was the one that you did to start with, I'd like you to draw an upside down V shape where the tip of the V is like touching the bottom of the vertical line. Okay, and the sloped parts of the V, the upside down V, are probably 8 centimetres long, so the same length as the vertical and horizontal lines that you drew to start with. Okay, so if you haven't already, have a little look now, see if you ended up with the same drawing as I have on screen. It is a stick man. Maybe you did, and I'd like to see what you ended up with. So please do drop me a tweet or a Facebook post to show me what you ended up with. I'd love to see that. So that is the end of today's workshop. Very well done. We've looked a little bit about the importance of correct instructions, and we've had a go at demonstrating that we can give correct instructions. As I said earlier, if you don't have the chance to do the paired activity right now, but you do have opportunity later in the day, get 2 people into a pair, one person draws, one person gives instructions. You can do your own example pictures, you don't have to use mine, and just take it in turns for giving instructions and see how well your instructions come across to the person that's drawing. So it's really important to have correct instructions when you're dealing with algorithms. We've learned what an algorithm is. Remember, an algorithm is a set of instructions that can be followed to complete a task, such as drawing a square. we learned how to represent an algorithm using a flowchart. And we had a flowchart that had some problems in it to start with, and we thought about how to make it correct. So we actually drew a square and we added some more instructions in. We then moved on after we did that to learning how to evaluate the effectiveness of an algorithm. And as I said, we learned there was something wrong with our algorithm, and we added some more instructions in so it actually worked. And then we thought about how efficient our algorithm was. And as a result of that, we learned how to use a loop in our flowchart, so we didn't have to write quite so many instructions, and we added that in there as well. We also did some dry runs and testing of our algorithm to make sure that it was working and it achieved the desired results. And we did that in two ways. We did that first of all with our flowchart, where we worked out there were 2 instructions missing and we had to add them in. And we also did that by identifying that we needed to loop a 4th time, so that this algorithm actually drew a square and didn't just draw the 3 sides with an open side that wasn't filled in. So that is about dry running or testing your algorithm to see that it works. So very, very well done today. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm going to do a sneaky peek in just a moment of the workshop that we're going to be running next. I'm just onto the chat now, so if you do have any questions for me, I'll be having a look on the chat to see what questions you might have. But I'll show you a sneaky peek now of what we're going to be doing next time, just while I'm waiting to see if anyone has any questions from today's workshop. Okay, so if you are joining us next time, which I'm sure you will be, so the next workshop is on Friday morning, same time, 11 o'clock British Standard Time. And we are going to be learning how to take some of what we've learned so far in algorithm design, and we're going to create a maze game. So the maze game is going to be themed around a frog eating some ants, and it's going to involve the use of a magic key and also how to add a score. And if you don't know what a maze game is, you might want to have a little look at Pac-Man as an example of a maze game. If you go onto Google and search for Google Pac-Man, there is a really nice little example that they actually built as one of their little Google graphics that you can have a go at doing, and just familiarise yourself with what a maze game is. So that's what a maze game looks like. So joining us, that's what we're going to be doing next time if you join us for our workshop on Friday. And we're going to be making that in Construct 3, which is completely free software. And I'll talk you through where to find that and how to use it next time. So I've just quickly double checked that we haven't got any messages for questions for today, which it doesn't look like. No questions from today's workshop. I hope you've enjoyed that. Today's workshop was Crazy Mazes Part 1. Join me on Friday for Crazy Mazes Part 2. And that only leaves for me to just tell you a little bit about Digital Schoolhouse, and also to say I hope that you've enjoyed taking part today. And I hope that you've had fun and learnt something new. I would also say if you've enjoyed this workshop, please do check out our YouTube channel for more follow-along activities. And if you've got any questions or feedback for me, please email dsh@ukie.org.uk. We'd love to see you learning computing at home with Digital Schoolhouse. So if you did have a go at any of those drawing activities today, we'd love to see any images or videos of you taking part using the hashtag computingathome on Twitter or on Facebook. But please do ask your parent or guardian to share those images, please. Also, for those of you who love writing, Digital Schoolhouse have launched a creative writing competition, which you can find more about on our website. If you're the parent of a primary age pupil and are interested in finding out about how Digital Schoolhouse can work with your child's school, you can find out more about the programme on our website, digitalschoolhouse.org.uk. You can find our contact information in the section below or at the end of this video. Lastly, I wanted to say a huge well done for taking part today. I'm Estelle, and I look forward to seeing you next time.